YouTube says it has had enough of vaccine misinformation on its site.
And false stories from phony sites to run circles around major news outlets.
Many people don't know the difference between something real and something created to deceive them.
Open your eyes.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. Are you still wondering the truth behind those white streaks trailing behind jets in the sky? Are you wondering what is that up there? Or are you one of the people out there that never looks up and pays attention? Or are you just one of those suckers who believes that it's water vapor? Well, thankfully, CNN has written an article on March 12th, 2024 to let us know what that is. Now, that's probably likely because CNN, who is a branch or an arm of the government, realizes that there's a lot of stuff out there tweeted and all this stuff. Because remember, when people write this stuff on the internet, the government's monitoring what you're writing. That's the whole point. It's like being inside of your mind. You're uploading stuff, writing stuff, saying stuff that you're thinking. So this gives them an opportunity to see what you're thinking, and they monitor all the data. And they realize a lot of people are noticing these direct energy weapon hits, these hurricanes, this bizarre weather. And then instead of actually believing the narrative they're trying to give you, people are waking up to what chemtrails really are. So I'm going to read this article to you because I'm sure you could use a good laugh. But before I do, I want you to know that I'm going to not be uploading on this channel anymore for a long period of time. That's right, not going to be uploading here. So if you still want my content, please subscribe to Nations Conspire and A Rebel Call. Those two channels I need to build out. The reason that I'm not going to be uploading here is that this channel still is called A Call for an Uprising, and it's going to be removed. If I have content on here, it'll be removed. That's why I have to keep removing the content and only leave it up for a day or two. But I need your help in subbing to those channels. So if you're somebody who's like, hey, I like this guy's channel, I still want to see his content, make sure you subscribe to those channels now. There will be daily content on them. And if you haven't checked out the website yet, acallforanuprising.com, now is the time to do so. There is thousands of videos up over on the website, videos that have been removed off of YouTube, uncensored videos, new videos that I have uploaded over there. You could spend a long period of time going through all those if you're new to this stuff. If you're somebody who misses some of the old content that I've had, it's over there. But also for the forum, it is worth it to join the website just for the forum. You will learn, you can share. There's so much over there to see that people are sharing with one another. You could also direct message people, talk to people who are like-minded. And of course, there's just unlimited amount of information, which is really the key, the stuff that they suppress over here on YouTube. So check out the website. It's 10 cents a day, $2.99 a month. That gives me unlimited bandwidth over there. It also keeps out the trolls. Because if you haven't noticed, I have some sick people who are pretty obsessed with me, who I know who they are. So, of course, when crap hits the fan, you could hear a knock on their door. I mean, what? I don't know. I'm just joking around. But joking aside, please make sure you check out the website if you haven't yet. But definitely subscribe to those other two channels now. So anyway, I was over on CNN seeing what the latest propaganda that was being pushed by the communist globalists here in the United States of America. And of course, that's going on worldwide. And as I was scrolling through the main page on CNN, here on March 12th, 2024, what do my stumbling eyes see but propaganda about chemtrails? That's right, the truth behind those white streaks trailing behind jets in the sky. Now, this isn't the first time, obviously, that the mainstream media has tried to cover and deflect on chemtrailing, but what it tells you is that they're realizing through, obviously what they do is they watch and monitor what people say online. Remember, you have to think of the internet as if it's a part of your consciousness because people are uploading and talking about things that they're thinking about or seeing, and they're sharing this stuff. They're seeing more and more people realizing that, the weather seems a little bit off. It's a little bit warmer in some places than it normally is. We see in the summer, obviously, a lot of the droughts, et cetera, et cetera. So obviously, naturally, the more suspicious people get, they're going to eventually stumble upon chemtrailing, cloud seeding, etc., Operation Popeye, all the stuff that obviously I've always covered, more people are becoming suspicious of weather manipulation and weather modification. So the propaganda machine, known as CNN and the others, are going to continue to have to put out garbage like this so that they could make sure that the zombies out there stay zombified. Listen to this hilarious article. The truth behind those white streaks trailing behind jets in the sky. We've all seen those white streaks trailing behind jets, creating stripes against the blue sky. The lines are called contrails, short for condensation trails, and they appear when water vapor condenses and freezes around the exhaust from an aircraft, according to the University Corporation for Atmospheric Research. I love how it's called University Corporation. At least that's what science tells us. In recent years, is that what science tells us, or is that what the propaganda machine tells us? Because water vapor does not cause a blue sky day to turn into a gray sky all day, okay? And why are all these planes flying around just dropping water vapor all of a sudden? Because the skies didn't look like this in the 80s and 90s, and there was a lot of aircraft, right? But they want to tell you that it's contrails. So at least that's what science says, according to CNN. In recent years, a growing number of people believe that these contrails are actually chemtrails, a well-established conspiracy theory asserting that these trails aren't made from condensation at all, but are instead chemicals being sprayed by the government. Though the theory may sound far-fetched to some, chemtrails have become a common conspiracy both in the US and around the world, despite evidence to the contrary. So I was actually thinking about this today, which is funny. This morning, I saw a chemtrail fly right above. Early in the morning, way before I saw this article, I started thinking to myself about chemtrails and about if we actually had scientists, which we've had, who have gotten the chemicals out of those planes, that whether they're taking it off of a truck below or something, that it's shedding onto below, which I can essentially could be our own skin because they're shedding it onto us. And I use the word shedding for obvious reasons. But where is the actual evidence of proof other than them telling us that they say so? Now, we don't need this because we've seen it before. If you watch those old C-SPAN clips, many people coming to Congress with concerns about the dangers of chemtrailing, but I love how they say it sounds far-fetched. Who does it sound far-fetched to? What kind of an idiot are we dealing with here when we're talking about people who actually believe CNN, NBC, and CBS and all these mainstream media? Oh, right, we're talking about just a different breed of moron. Because for them to believe without actual evidence is exactly what they're doing here. Because they're saying despite evidence to the contrary. They provide no evidence at all, except telling us this stuff and then putting the word science in the article. Despite telling us that this evidence and these studies are from a University Corporation for Atmospheric Research. So there's your corporation, which just proves to you that this, again, is communism. So what is the chemtrail conspiracy theory? This is according to CNN. The chemtrails idea has been around since 1996 and is largely rooted in an Air Force research paper from the same year. Quote, weather as a force multiplier, owning the weather in 2025, end quote. It outlines a future weather modification system to achieve military objectives using aerospace forces and does not reflect current military policy, practice, or capability, the Environmental Protection Agency has stated. So, yeah, I'm sure somebody just randomly, put this out there. Now, we don't even need a research document from the Air Force to tell us about this because we can use this thing called our own eyes. We could also see all these differences in our society as far as illnesses, spikes in cancer, people not being able to have babies. What else can we see here? We could also maybe look at the effects of barium and aluminum on the human skin or in the air or the air quality. We could also look at the temperature changes because we know that they're geoengineering and cloud seeding to also be able to manipulate the weather. We can go back to Operation Popeye, all these other things. But they just want to tell you that now there's a research paper out there and it states the year 2025. So they want to make sure you don't get suspicious since we're coming up on 2025 and our government is telling us that we need to give up our rights and have a carbon tax. Yeah? Anyone out there that's reading this and is not waking up, what more is it really going to take? I mean, they're so nervous that they put these articles out there. Not because it's clickbait. They have to spin actual truth with their that's how the propaganda machine works. That's why we just saw an article 2 weeks ago that I put up here on the website about the Georgia Guidestones. That's why whenever we talk, how about John Cena? They just came out with a story, if you saw my video on John Cena and the Oscars, the humiliation ritual. They just put articles out there calling it a humiliation ritual, saying it's a conspiracy theory. I mean, wouldn't you just live and let live? You wouldn't even bring attention to this stuff, but they have to bring attention to it because they know that people are waking up to what's going on, so they need to put a defense wall in between that so that these stories pop up before any stories about truth, about what chemtrails really are, and how the climate scam is based on chemtrailing, cloud seeding, and weather modification / manipulation. So they say, at its most basic, the chemtrail conspiracy theory says that contrails are not created by water vapor at all, but instead are a sign that the government, the wealthy, or some mix of the two, is secretly putting toxic chemicals into the air, creating these white lines. Ideas about the purpose of these supposed toxic chemtrails vary. Some believe the chemicals are being used to poison humanity. Others say it's for mind control. And some think it's a way for the government to control the weather. There's no single official version of the theory. According to Saija Zhao, a PhD candidate at the University of California, Berkeley, who conducted a 2021 study exploring the chemtrail conspiracy theory and interviewing 20 believers and former believers. Instead, individuals pick and choose aspects that resonate with them, mixing in personal interpretations or selectively adopting parts of the theory. First of all, breaking that whole paragraph down, has anybody ever heard of somebody who was a former believer of chemtrails? We've heard of like all these things they tried to do with like, they were so, the mainstream media likes to pull that stuff with the Q nonsense, the CIA Q operation, and say, now so-and-so was sucked into Q, then they came out and they're healthier and better. Who has ever met somebody who was like, I used to believe those were chemtrails, but now I'm convinced that they're not? Kind of quite the opposite. This is how full-on propaganda works, of course. The way they word this is specifically done. Some believe the chemicals are being used to poison humanity. Others say it's for mind control. And some think it's a way for the government to control the weather. Well, it's all the above. But again, when they word it like that, they know that people are automatically going to put up a defense mechanism and go, it's too much for me to process. That's too confusing. What? How would it do that? I don't even care. These people are conspiracy theorists. Meanwhile, if they only realized what was going on, they wouldn't be so miserable in their day-to-day lives because they'd realize that the government has been messing with them psychologically now for a good 2 decades straight. Now, that doesn't mean they weren't doing it beforehand, but every single day for the last 20 years or so, they have been taking this mind control operation of theirs to new extremes. So this goes on to say, how did the chemtrail conspiracy theory take off? The idea that the government spraying humanity with chemicals isn't completely without base. Oh, really? During the Cold War, the British government conducted more than 750 mock chemical warfare attacks on the general public, according to researchers. This subjected hundreds of thousands of people to zinc sulfide, a chemical chosen due to its small size. It's similar to that of germs, and because it glows under ultraviolet light, making it easy to trace, the chemical was thought to be non-toxic at the time, though repeated exposure could be cancerous. The U.S. did the same in the 1950s and 60s, using the chemical as a tracer to test the dispersion of biological weapons. Okay, so now they're admitting that they've done this before and they have the ability to do it. And even give you specifics about how it could make somebody or it could give somebody exposure, which could lead to cancer, right? So they're admitting to this. So what would make a common person out there think that they're not doing it anymore because they've come out and given us their word? Because they've come out and said, oh, well, we did it in the 50s, but we're not doing it now. Does anything that the government's doing on either side show you that they give a crap about any of us? Democrat or Republican, Christian or atheist, anybody, gay or straight, male or female, black or white? No. In fact, it's quite the opposite. They literally are trying to get people to kill themselves with vaccines, which is working. And now they're telling you that, well, America did do some of this testing in the 50s and 60s. So now your brain should automatically be going, oh, wait a minute. So these people were saying that you're chemtrail, you've done it before. So why would we act? So how are we supposed to know you're not doing it now? Because you give us your word? These are the same people, right? They give you your word. They tell you they don't clone, even though they have the technology to do it. All right? They tell you they don't do MK Ultra anymore on civilians, even though they've done it before. So they do all these experiments. What was the point of doing it? Oh, for biological warfare with other countries, right? And everybody went along with it. Like, oh, okay, our government's doing this stuff just in case we go to war with Russia, right? How much longer do you need to hear that narrative to realize that they were doing the experimentation so that the globalists could go to war with their civilians? And that's what they're doing right now. And it's live right now, okay? They weren't experimenting with this because it's the same thing with the nuke. It's like, oh, they've got a nuke, right? And they keep you in fear of the nuke. Why wouldn't somebody have used a nuke by now? Why would Russia not use a nuke on Ukraine? What, because they're trying to be nice and not use a nuke? You're at war with another country. Wouldn't you wipe them out as quickly as possible without having to kill off your military or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? I mean, nobody's thinking. And this is part of what the chemtrailing has done. In addition to the fluoridization of the water, the chemtrailing is making people in a fog, a haze. They're walking around like in the London fog. They're literally not sure what's going on. They're hearing stuff and they're going, wait a minute, is there truth to that? And they're getting run over by real misinformation like this, where they're actually telling you in the article, hey, the government's experimented before with chemtrailing. So now they're telling you they've done it, which is illegal. These are illegal activities that the government is doing on citizens. And still these idiots think that these people who are killing you with a smile actually give a crap about you. And they show us day in and day out. Not only do they not care about us, they want to make sure that they curb stomp us and take our rights away at the same time. Goodness gracious. So this goes on to say, though these tests were done decades ago, the theory has flourished so much so that in 2016, the EPA published a 14-page document explaining contrails, outlining the chemicals used by the Air Force, and attempting to dispute the conspiracy. In 2021, a Facebook post went viral claiming that Joe Biden manipulated the weather through chemtrails and caused Texas's week-long deep freeze that February, with hundreds of people engaging with the message. Well, hopefully by now, and really, let's be real, thankfully, and not so thankfully, not thankfully, because of course, what's happened to people in Maui is absolutely horrific and tragic, and it can happen to any one of us at any second. But there's no positives, I shouldn't say that, but one of the things that came out of Maui is that people started to realize that that climate change wasn't real because they didn't buy that narrative. And they started realizing that the government had gone rogue and that weather manipulation was real because the deeper they went into research with direct energy weapons, they started realizing about DARPA, they started realizing about HARP. And the next thing you know, they start going, okay, the government has turned on the civilians, right? So we can look at some of these weather events. We can look at those fires in California a couple years ago. We look at the Maui fires. We look at the one that just happened in Texas. And people are waking up. And they're seeing the stuff with the tornadoes in middle America and them trying to go, oh, it's climate change. Then they're going, wait a minute. Oh, I saw that guy call for an uprising. Didn't he have a video and lots of videos about weather modification, weather manipulation like 5-10 years ago? Now it's starting to ring a bell because now people are starting to see that the government is weaponizing the weather, right? So they're coming out with stuff like this and they're going, oh, a Facebook post went viral, right? Yeah, and that's exactly why the government has put their foot down on social media because they realize that their propaganda machine is having a tough time fighting truth that's coming out of the mouths of people like you and me. That their propaganda machine, people trained at Tavistock, are doing such a poor job that people like me and you are actually waking people up to what's going on. When they probably initially thought that their trained operatives in the news media were going to be all that it took. They were like, oh, they're trained, they'll be able to manipulate people and all this stuff. But people like us are breaking them from the spell, not by needing to use manipulation, by using flat out truth, which is what they fear the most. So this goes on to say on X, thousands of people follow accounts dedicated to tracking and posting proof of chemtrails. One 2017 study, which had a nationally representative sample of 1,000 people, found that 10% of Americans believe the conspiracy completely, while upwards of 30% of Americans at least found it somewhat true. That's 40% of people, right? You take the 10% who believe it and 30% of people who are indifferent about it, which shows you they only have the minds of 60%. Now, do I actually believe their study? No, not really. I would say that it's actually probably less than that because the most of the people I talk to, they never look up. And once they look up and you start bringing it to their attention, it's a lot for them to handle. It's the same as the human sacrifice and satanic ritual abuse. It's a lot for them to process, which is why I always reference peeling an onion. You got to pull them out of this in layers. So you can't just start by saying, hey, they rape babies and drink the blood of children because their brains can't process it. They're like, whoa, not only do they think you're crazy, they can't physically process it. So with chemtrails, it takes time First, they need to notice the trails. That's where it starts. They need to just notice it. And then you try to get these people to notice it every day, to look up all the time, and then count how many days they see a blue sky versus not. Then their brain will start to go a little bit. Then you could take them from there and start giving them the deep dives with all of the stuff that I've covered and shown you guys in videos before of, even Disney releasing videos on weather modification, Operation Popeye. You go into HARP, you can go into some of the stuff in Congress where they've talked about chemtrailing, et cetera, et cetera. So this goes on to say social media's algorithmic structure means people see information that reinforces their existing beliefs. Ex-believers interviewed attributed their ongoing belief in part to the sheer amount of pro-conspiracy information on their social media feeds. And again, that's just their way of trying to brainwash people into thinking that the people who are waking up to this are really the ones brainwashed. Very obvious mind control tactic, right? But the reality of the matter is that they're having a tough time suppressing this the way that they want to, because they're so cocky. Their actors suck. Their newscasters are atrocious. And that's why you see them get rotated a lot. These guys like Brian Stelter, they get rotated out because once they become laughing stocks and they lose their credibility, which they don't do on purpose, it happens organically. They have to replace them with new propagandists to put in there, right? So we saw Don Lemon. They all keep getting Cuomo. They move them out and they put new ones in because they need to establish these people as, trusted people. Oh, they're just news. Oh, there's somebody I could go to for information. These people become laughing stocks. It makes their machine not churn as well as it has in the past. So they are very fearful of this. And they go, the social media, don't listen to social media. It's just reinforcing fake news. They're the fake news, obviously. And people don't realize all the problems. Like, I try to point out simple things to everybody who listens, okay? People not being able to have babies. Everybody knows somebody who's doing something, the IVF type of thing, right? Everybody knows somebody. Nobody should know anybody that's doing IVF because it shouldn't be occurring, because people should be naturally able to get pregnant pretty easily. Families used to be like 5 kids. Now if somebody has 2 kids, it's like, whoa, they got 2 kids? And it's not because they're not trying to have kids. It's because people can't get pregnant anymore. Okay, everyone's sterile from the chemtrails. How about cancer rates? How about dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's? These are all effects of aluminum, barium being dumped on humans. So people started going, hey, and autism as well. Then we look at the vaccines too. Instead, people just think that this is, with the advancements in technology, why are so many people sick? Why are so many people at young ages getting sick? Nobody asks that. They're too distracted with nonsense. And they do that by design to keep you distracted and then pump in propaganda like this, which again, this is the real fake news. There is 0%. That's what's funny about it. It's not just like pick and choose on CNN what's real and what's not. Nothing in the news is real. Nothing. You might get real stories in the local affiliate news about a murder, about a domestic murder or something like that they'll use and they'll push out, which also seed plants people into the same thinking the same ways, which is, again, why you see all these true crimes. You hear a story about a husband and wife, and they're like, oh yeah, he dismembered his wife. 10 years ago, people have been like, holy crap, this guy dismembered. Now it's like, oh yeah, they dismembered their wife to get rid of the evidence. And everyone, what do you think the guy got the ideas to dismember his wife? He woke up with the idea? They plant seeds in your head. They push this type of stuff. So those stories, there might be true ones out there. But the overall, if you go to CNN, everything on there is there to manipulate you and give you a false perception of reality, this included. So the final part of the story goes, are chemtrails real? Here's what experts say. Scientists have said there's no evidence for the existence of chemtrails. Even if there was a government conspiracy at work in aircraft contrails, such a large-scale program would be difficult to cover up, given the amount of people who would be necessary for operation. Wrong, wrong, wrong. These people in government go through secret societies. That's how they get government jobs. They're sworn to secrecy, period. And no one talks about that except me and a few others. I'm not saying I'm not the only one, but let's say we're talking about big channels out there. Nobody talks about it, okay? This is very important so people understand how this conspiracy works. Because they go, right, how would everybody be in on it? They're all put in those positions. They have to go through secret societies. And then they go, well, why wouldn't they break away from the secret society then? We don't hear any stories about anyone who breaks away. You know why? Because when you hit a certain degree in these secret societies, which you have to hit before you get into a government position, you do a ritual where they will blackmail you. They film it. you doing something disgusting. A lot of times it'll be a guy having sex with a man. He never wants that to get out, or something with a child. Thus, the person is never going to break the oath because they'll hold it over their head. And they'll say, oh, if you come out publicly, we will release this and you'll be arrested and go to jail for the rest of your life, or you'll be killed by one of us. You could pick. And that's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. So it is very possible. They just want you to think that those things don't exist, which is why the alt-right media not once has ever covered secret societies. They've never gone into detail about Freemasonry. They've never gone into detail about DeMolay, Job's Daughters, Rainbow Girls. That stuff is all here on the website, by the way. If you're new, you can go to the search box and look up the secret societies for children. That's how they get the children involved in a lot of these false flag psyop school shootings, okay? They're recruited and groomed at a young age. So it goes on to say, around the world, scientists have conducted investigations debunking the chemtrail theory, they've never debunked it once, describing the existence of contrails and their variants at length. Even Edward Snowden, the whistleblower who leaked classified information from the National Security Agency, has stated that chemtrails are not a thing. Well, of course, because you only know of Edward Snowden because Edward Snowden is another one of these government officials, okay? The WikiLeaks guy, they even have Illuminati cards of these guys. Oh, they're in jail somewhere. Oh, what do they know? They must know a lot. Oh, Trump is getting attacked by the deep state. He must really be against them. They must be really afraid of him. That's called psychological operations. That's called hurting the masses. Edward Snowden would be 17 feet under, not 6 feet. He'd be 666 feet under, okay? Edward Snowden. Oh, I wonder what his purpose could be. He's this big whistleblower, but he's telling you that chemtrails, which is one of the biggest issues that we're having as a human race right now, is not a thing. So everyone's, oh yeah, well, I'm not going to, Edward Snowden knows, and it's not a thing, so it's make-believe. So I'm not going to wonder why I'm depressed, why I have anxiety, why I'm sick, why my wife has cancer, why we can't have kids, why I have dementia at 40, not 80, just in general. Why people are getting Parkinson's all over the place. Give me a break. I love how they put Edward Snowden in there. Funny. Goes on to say, still believers are not convinced. Belief in the theory has become so strong that meteorologists around the world have reported an uptick in harassment and threats, usually after extreme weather, particularly from conspiracy theorists accusing them of hiding information. I also did a video on that, which was one of the funnier things I'd ever seen, where they were saying that meteorologists were resigning from news stations because they felt and we're getting threats from people like me and you. Like I'm sitting here, let's just say me, for example, right? Because this whole stereotype they use for conspiracy theorists is supposed to be about people like me and you, right? So you think that I'm, when I hear that there's going to be, a hurricane and we all know, we can look and say, okay, well, this is clearly manipulated weather. They're targeting a specific spot. Let's just look at Texas. Yeah, I'm spending my time calling the local weather station, trying to get the meteorologist on the phone so I could tell him to go F himself and then I'm going to kill him. I mean, the stuff they make up is incredible. It truly is. What's even more incredible is the fact that people believe it. Last paragraph here, it says, the collective agreement within these communities often overpowers the rational dissent of scientists. This makes it exceedingly difficult for factual corrections to alter these deeply entrenched beliefs. Keep in mind, these are the same people who told you to get vaccinated, who told everybody out there that we were conspiracy theorists, that the vaccines were perfectly safe, that you'd be immune from ever getting another vaccine, and you'd be able to live your life again. It wasn't about control. It wasn't about getting you to give up your rights, right? That's what they all told you. Or, I know everyone here obviously knows, but everybody out there who listened, that's what they told everybody. We were all nuts. And then it was proven we were right. And these people are so narcissistic, they don't want to believe we were right. So they decided that they would still rather believe these people who've been lying to them and feeding them lies because they're weak, warp-minded people. Same with the chemtrails, folks. So this is propaganda 101. They don't want you to believe in chemtrails that bad that they put out an article like this. And the biggest problem is that people who believe in conspiracy theorists keep getting recommended stuff about chemtrails over and over again, so it enforces their belief. Oh yeah? How about all of us who talk about this stuff are completely censored? The alt-right's allowed to remain out there. You don't hear these alt-right daily wires talking about chemtrails, fluoride. They might bring attention to, the vaccines, because that garners support for them. Because you have to be a complete sucker. They're not going to be able to lure people unless they're anti-vaccine, but they were all pushing the vaccine in the beginning too. All the right-wing media was. And all of us continued to get support when we called it out. I remember I was getting people on my older channels that were still alive at the time, and they're going, I can't believe this guy was talking about this in 2016, 2017. How do you know? How do you know they were trying to get vaccines to people? Oh, they're trying to kill people, right? So they were waking up to this stuff because the evidence was there that we were all talking about it long beforehand. So you got to be a real sucker, folks. It's amazing that they have the balls to put stuff like this out, but it shows you that it works. It's for us, we look at it and we go, they're ridiculous and pathetic. But for the real dumb people, this stuff works, and that's why they continue to do it. Otherwise, they would use different methods. So the title was The Truth Behind Those White Streaks Trailing Behind Jets in the Sky, all right? But the truth of the matter is that the government, the fake stream media, they all have brown streaks in their underwear because they are so fearful of truth that they have to put garbage like this out. I thank everybody for being here on the website. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you had a good laugh about this. You can find the article on CNN if you want. Unbelievable, folks. Thanks for being here again. God bless all of you as always and your families.